Hey YouTube! So, today I thought I would talk about books, mainly because I stopped reading books for a quite big period of time, reading like one book every few months, but because of my work, it takes me about an hour to get to and from work, so because of that I decided to start reading some books. I thought it would be a good idea now because I've been through, in the last month and a half, I think it's 9 books, I'm on my 10th now. So I thought I'd go through some books I've been reading and tell you what I think about them and if I think you should read them or if they're not that good. Unfortunately, the books I've been reading at the moment are actually pretty good. I haven't really come across one that I haven't liked. I've been told from different people that they didn't like some of the books, but each to their own, your own opinion I suppose. Okay, so the first lot is The Mortal Instruments. Now, these books are absolutely astounding. I'm really loving these. I got absolutely hooked on these, and these are what actually got me back into reading. There's actually 4 out at the moment. Unfortunately, there's a 5th coming out next year. I was panicking because at this time, when I'd read the 4th book, I thought there wasn't one after it, and I was going to freak, but then I found out there was a 5th. I do believe there's a film coming out next year of this book. I didn't know that when I bought this. My girlfriend told me that. So fingers crossed that being good. Yeah, they're really good books. I couldn't pin a writing style. I couldn't say who it's like. I think they seemed very teen when I started reading them, but they seemed to mature as they went on, which I like books like that. And it's got a lot of twists in it, which I really like books with twists that, you know, you don't expect. Like, you do get some twists that you're like, oh, I kind of saw that coming, or I could have figured that, but the twists that really make you think, oh god, which actually has happened on the book I'm reading right now. Today I found out something major within my book and nearly screamed because it was so annoying that I didn't even see that. But anyway, so yeah, The Mortal Instruments, really good books. I do recommend giving them a try because I really enjoyed them. I really did. Next is Divergent. Now, I don't know what this series is actually called, or if it's just going to be like Twilight and name the series after the first book. But at the moment there's only 2 books out, which is Divergent and Insurgent. It's a great story. I'm not going to ruin much for it, or any, if I can help it. It's like a dystopian future, where basically the world's set out into factions for different things. Like, the world's split up into 5 different factions. You have Abnegation, Candor, Erudite, Amity, and Dauntless, I think it is. Now, the reason why they're split up is because they have like different, you're meant to have one mindset for one group. So for example, if your mindset was that you like danger, but that was it, you'd go into Dauntless. And so on and so forth, different ones for being truthful and stuff like that. But Divergent is someone who is more than one, and if you're more than one, you're seen as a threat as such, because, I mean, if you had a mix between loving danger and being able to be very forward thinking into throwing yourself into things, and also intelligent at the same time, they see that as a threat towards them. And it's a story about this girl called Triss, who basically, like, as she gets to the age of 16 has to make her decision, which is done like through a virtual world thing. It's hard to explain, but basically it's how everything kind of goes wrong for her, as it always does in books like this. But yeah, genuinely amazing book, and the second one was just as good, and I definitely do recommend going out to buy them. Next book on my list is Gods and Warriors. Now this I picked up because I wanted a bit of a difference. I mean, the last books I'd read was, one of them was set in a world with, you know, vampires and werewolves and stuff like that. Very fantasy in a modern day. And then you had one set in a dystopian future, so I thought I wanted to try reading something that was a bit different to the other things I've been reading. So I picked up this, because it's set in kind of like a made-up area of Greece, and it's a really good book. I didn't know at the time that this was part of a series. The first book of a series, I thought it was a standalone book, which really annoyed me. The next book doesn't come out till next year. Now, the reason why this annoyed me was because, just like books are coming out next year, they're next in the series, which is great because it means I've got stuff to look for next year, but it's annoying because I want to know what the hell happens in all the 3 books that I'm waiting for. But oh well. Next is Meta Wars. Now this book was astounding. I would give it a 5 out of 2. I don't know why you'd rate in 2, but I'd give it a 5 out of 2. This is a really genuinely good book. The story mainly is that in the dystopian future, the world is like overcome with virtual reality. Virtual reality is the way forward. It's like where everyone spends their time. Even people go to school in a virtual reality. It's great, but it's about how you have these 2 factions trying to control this virtual reality. You have the ones who believe that it should be set free and every user should have control of whatever they want, and you have the one who thinks that he should be in charge. Now, automatically as you're reading it, you're led to think one thing, but again, as I love with books, there's twists here and there that by the end of this book, I'm still not sure which side I support more, because there's just so many different things in it, and when it comes to your mind, it makes you think, well, should the world be free, or should it have people in control? Because if the world was free, mayhem would ensue. Everyone would just do their own thing, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But if one person was in control, they could try and get people to control it then, which isn't bad because we'd still be restricted, but there wouldn't be mayhem. And it's really complicated, but it's a really good story. I definitely recommend reading that. Really, really irritating thing about Meta Wars, though, is that the next book is out next year, as is every other book. So, what is my obsession of picking up books that I don't even know are part of a series? I genuinely don't know half these are part of a series until I look on the internet or finish reading it and then go, well, it's obviously part of a series, check the internet, oh, it's out next year. Very annoying. Next book is Tempest. Now, I bought Tempest because it looked intriguing and very different to what I usually read. I thought it was a romance when I first picked it up. And I didn't pick it up because it was a romance, I picked it up because it was to do with time travel, and I'm very interested in time travel. And it turned out to be one of the best of all these books that I've actually read. It was so great, because it was just, I don't know, the story went from being just about romance and how he needed to go back to see his girlfriend to other stuff. The main plot of the story is that basically he can time travel, but he can only go back in time. And every time he does it, he can only get to certain points, like he can only push himself back to a certain point. But after this one incident that happens, he basically goes back 2 years and does what they call as setting a home base 2 years before. Now, setting a home base is when you usually go back in time, it feels like his body's ripping into 2. So that basically it's like a boomerang effect, so he'd go back to whatever time and then eventually would come back to there because that was his home base. Now what happens this time is he moves his home base 2 years before. Now when he moves his 2 years before, what actually happens is he can't go forward back them 2 years because he doesn't understand how he can't go forward in time. And the reason why he goes back in time in the first place is because his girlfriend gets shot, and he's panicking throughout the book because he needs to go and stop his girlfriend. And it's just an amazing book, and it changes genres so many times. So I definitely recommend getting this book. Annoyingly, again, the next book is, I'm sure it's out next year, which is another book that I have to wait for next year. The last book is the book I'm reading at the moment, called The Infernal Devices. Now my girlfriend lent me this, because it's kind of part and kind of not part of the Mortal Instruments books. It's like set in the same world, with the same, monsters, demons, stuff like that, like the same names and institutes and stuff like where they go to. But this is set in the 1800s, late 1800s I think, and it's more steampunky, which is really good. As you can see, I have not that many pages left. That is it. But at least I know the next book of that is actually out, which, unlike everything else, makes me feel a bit happier. That's about it. I recommend reading all of these books at some time if you can. If I had to put any of them first, I would probably say Tempest, the Mortal Instruments books, and the Infernal Devices that I'm reading at the moment, because I'm really into that, especially the twists that it's taken, like I said before, today because I was infuriated sitting on a bus trying to stay calm at what was happening, and that's how into books I get. So leave a comment if you recommend any books yourself, and I'll read them and then give you feedback if I liked them or not. See you soon, EVV.